stunning piece of video from the FDIC and a stunning meeting that they held in November that they don't want you to see. So it just leaked, and this video is out. You're going to see members of the FDIC and other panel discussions in this FDIC meeting. It's not just FDIC members. It's lawyers, it's bankers, but they're all around a table having a meeting admitting that a crash is coming. They're saying this. And they're also saying publicly in this meeting, and they all kind of laugh about it, that they don't have any faith in the banks. They also admit on camera that they don't want you to know this because only people who need to know that it's coming should be notified, i.e. the wealthy. They don't want you to know about this, and they say it in this meeting. You common people shouldn't be told because you would take your money out of the banks and then they wouldn't be able to use your money for bail-in purposes to save the banks. We'll let the rich people know about this, just like in March 2020. They made moves because we alerted them. They sold their stocks. They were in the know. They were fine. And you got screwed. And they're saying this in this meeting. This is the FDIC meeting. I'm going to show you a couple of different sound bites here. This is amazing. Watch.
Should be accessible when people need to know, but I don't think you have much hope of reaching a public that doesn't have a professional need to know.
I completely agree with that. I almost think you'd scare the public if you put this out. Like, why are they telling me this? Should I be concerned about my bank? Like, my insurance company doesn't tell me what they're doing with my assets. They just assume they're going to pay my claim, right? I think you've got to think of the unintended consequences of taking a public that has more full faith and confidence in the banking system than maybe people in this room do. That
you hear them laughing?
They're laughing. That's really stinking condescending. What I hear from that is like, run along, little girl.
Yeah.
You don't need to know. And also, ever heard of FTX? Because, yeah, we don't like that. When we realize that people are doing stuff with our money this untowards. Turns out not a great idea.
So we don't have faith in the banking system in here, and they all laugh. They're like, yeah, none of us do. We're the FDIC.
We can't tell the little people what's really going on here. It'll just scare them, and their little brains can't handle it.
Because if they do, oh my God, they might panic, and they might actually want their own money that they worked 40 years of their lives for.
we want them to have full faith and confidence in the banking system. They know the FDIC insurance is there. They know it works. They put their money in. They're going to get their money out. So there's a select crowd of people that are in the institutional side. And if they want to understand this, they're going to find a way to understand this. There's a bunch of law firms represented in this room. There's a bunch of people that charge them by the hour a lot of money to explain this all to them. And it's fine. I don't have a problem with that. And they all have huge staffs. But I would be careful about the unintended consequences of starting to blast too much of this out in the general public.
I wondered whether there are some market tests of whether you're being heard.
So
But there's no adult in that room. Like, yeah, that's
And I
fine.
think about
Anybody there who's like, maybe that's a little unethical. Should we have lunch on that? Should we think about that for a minute?
no, because they keep going. And that's just the first little chunk of this. So you're too stupid. We don't want you to know, the average person to know about this. If you're wealthy and you're plugged in, and you've got a large legal team and you can pay people by the hour to figure all this stuff out, yeah, you can figure it out.
I mean,
the average
he kind of
person,
has a
no.
point.
He does have a point.
You know,
the system is
because
rigged.
like when they announced there was a pandemic, a viral infection, toilet paper was like impossible to get. You know, there was a run on toilet paper. So I get that the fact that there would be a run on the banks, and it could devastate the banks. You know,
It will.
because people, yeah, totally.
Because of the way that they're structured.
Exactly.
It's a scam. Like, it's a scam. And the great house of cards is going to come down. When the collapse comes, the FDIC admits that they will send out an announcement. So get ready for this. They admit they will send out an announcement and they will tell us not to use money. This is how that's going to go down. They tell us that they plan on telling us on a Friday night. See if you can guess why they would tell us on a Friday night that the banking system has collapsed. Don't worry, don't use any money. We'll figure this out and we'll take care of you or not. We'll tell you on a Friday night. Listen to her explain when this will happen. Watch.
How would we use targeted guarantees to allay concerns about excess cash use? There's a lot of questions here. And so, there are a lot of things we've been thinking about, and what we want to hear from you today is what you think the priorities would be in order to go about setting expectations appropriately in public about how we would execute Title II. So that if and when we do have to have that announcement on Friday night, ideally Friday night, that people are in a position to receive it, understand it, and say, yeah, that works. And we can see how this will happen. Of course, there will be doubters, but there's a lot of things going on.
Okay, thanks for that.
So Friday night, of course, and the banking system is closed. So people all weekend can just be at home freaking out because, oh, wait a minute, I just lost, what's going to happen with my money?
Yeah.
Our bank's going, we're in this economic, just, what the hell are you going to do about my money? It's gone. They're admitting like this is coming. And they're saying that they managed to pull their money to safety, the rich people will pull their money to safety ahead of time. But most people were totally screwed because they weren't in the know. This is what happened in 2020, right? Those people got screwed because they weren't in the room where it happened. They weren't Bill Gates. They didn't get the heads up, the phone call from Nancy Pelosi. Here is how he actually admits that some people will be screwed by this. Watch.
Spread should respond to good and bad news about the institutions, and it's really important. I mean, it's a little bit conflicted, right? I mean, it's important that people understand they can be bailed in, but you don't want a huge run on the institution. But they're going to be. And it could be an early warning signal to the FDIC and the primary regulators when these things happen. And there may be some other prices. This is similar to what Jay was saying in the market that you can tell whether people understand who's going to be protected, who isn't going to be protected. It would be, I think, an interesting study to look at the evolution of market prices in a situation like March of 2020, for example, and see whether people understood what might happen.
I might go further than that, Don, because I think that...
So listen to this next guy. This is unbelievable. So this guy just admitted, like, that most people didn't understand because they weren't educated about it. The people that were in the know managed to be okay. The people that got screwed because they weren't in the, we wouldn't give them information. Listen, though, to the next guy.
You look at the evolution, I think we have to sit down and talk to long-term debt investors and make sure that they, as a stakeholder group, fully understand bank debt today is not what it was before. It is not principal protected by design. And I think that expectation, I like how you started off, Betsy, like it's all about expectation setting. And I think that is absolutely critical. If that doesn't hold, this whole thing doesn't hold. And so I think it's one area to focus on.
So if the expectation doesn't hold, then this whole phony house of cards collapses, is basically what he's saying. Did I read that wrong? If the expectation doesn't hold, the expectation that our banking system is fine,
Meaning we need
collapses.
to maintain the ruse.
Yes, we need to maintain the facade, is what he's saying.
Okay.
And not just him, we heard that 4 or 5 times around that table. The same thing was said multiple times about the facade, the phoniness of it all.
Yeah.
The house of cards of it all. So journalist Greg
if you want, sorry, I was just going to say, like, while we're still on that point, if you want like a really good example of just absolute evil, like if you believe that absolute evil exists on the planet, you were just looking at a meeting of it. Because that is just, I mean, it's just like how just almost like flippant and nonchalant they are about like, yeah, a lot of common people are going to get screwed, but as long as the people that need to know can get their money out so we can secure, the rich so that they're fine, then everybody else is an acceptable loss.
Yes,
how
the
do you make that
callousness.
decision?